Well, it's 1 o'clock Central. Welcome everybody to this month's webinar with TVC ProDriver. So my name is Nick Hillesheim. I'm the Chief Sales Officer here at TVC. And I'm joined today by Glenn Williams, who's the EVP of Product and Partner Relations at ProMiles. So we're really excited about this month's webinar because we're actually launching our new partnership with ProMiles. So today we're really going to talk to you more so about IFTA and compliance and how ProMiles can actually help automate some of that process. So the title is Battling the Quarterly IFTA Time Suck. We all know that IFTA can be a very tedious process, but today we're going to show you really how we can help automate some of that stuff with our new partnership with ProMiles. So with that, just a quick housekeeping item. If you have questions along the way, feel free to type those in the chat. We'll answer some of those along the way, but we'll definitely save time at the end for a Q&A session. But with that, I'm going to introduce Glenn Williams. So Glenn, I don't know if you want to just give a quick background about yourself and how you got to where you're at today, and then we can get things started.
That sounds perfect. Thanks, Nick. And we're real excited about our new partnership with TVC ProDriver. A little bit about myself. I've been in transportation 28 years. It's all I know. Started off in a small company called Belmore, and also worked at a small company called Satellite Manufacturing in Chicago, really focused on truck accessories and safety products. I spent 20 years at PeopleNet / Trimble, however you want to refer to it as. It's the first product manager hired at PeopleNet back in the day. And the very first product I actually launched when I was there was ProMiles Fuel Tax. And we use this within a lot of our different markets while I was at PeopleNet there. Also was managed when I was there, partners, channels, sales in Mexico, also sales for customers with under 35 units, which in our standard plan was our ProMiles Fuel Tax product, and also different partnerships that we did with companies like FedEx Ground and others who use the ProMiles Fuel Tax product. Also, my last 3 years there, I was Vice President of Product Management, responsible for 4 of the 5 main portfolios there. So many of you are probably familiar with the mobility portfolio, the TMS portfolios, which is the suites and some of the others, maintenance, and also the cloud TMS solution. Spent 1 year at Spirion, trailer tracking, learned a lot there from the perspective of trailer utilization and launching a managed service product. And then the president and owner of ProMiles asked me to come over and really look at how they position their products, what new products they had, and to manage product and partners relations. So I'm going to spend the majority of my time today, 95% of it, focused on fuel tax. I will do a quick overview of just some of the regulations that we support, go into some fuel tax details so you can see how easy it is to go in and file your returns using the automated system. And included in the package is also ProMiles Online, which I'll spend a couple minutes just kind of giving you an overview of that, of how you can route your vehicles and use data from in there as well. But to kick it off, I want you guys to get an overview of just ProMiles at a high level. So when we look at our company and we look at really what we're focused on, it's addressing all the top industry issues. For the last couple of years, fuel wasn't in the top issue, but it is in there right now. We have multiple different products which are designed to provide drivers, fleets, the tools they need to optimize their fuel and to find the best place. The other thing which you guys will have advantage of is inside our system is we have 9,700 truck accessible locations where we have the actual retail fuel in addition to DEF fuel prices. So that's some data that we have. And we also have another product that we offer called Fuel Finder. Within compliance and safety, there's 2 main products. The one we're here to talk about today, which is fuel tax. And our fuel tax solution is really designed for fleets that have anywhere from 1 vehicle all the way up to 5, 10, 15,000 vehicles. And we'll get into the details of that as we move forward. We process a lot of different fuel tax for fleets, roughly about 340,000 units. We process over 30 million trips a year, millions and millions of gallons of fuel that we integrate with companies like TVC to pull that into the trip data. And we also have a permitting solution. And that really ties into our ability as we look at how ProMiles routes. So there's all different types of data that we have that we use to route vehicles. But one of our advantages is that for 20 of the individual states, we actually build out their permitting system. So for oversized, overweight loads, 20% of the states or 27 states out there use our routing to actually do that. In addition, 50% of all oversized overweight permits actually come through ProMiles and through one of the service bureaus that we partner with. And as you'll see, as we look at routing and optimization, you look at all the different congestion that's out there. We have some tools that are available online that you guys will have access to for routing. And all of that is used to make sure that when we pull data and we route your vehicles, that we have individual trips for fuel tax reporting. And then the last thing is when you look at, we have a large part of our business is around oversized overweight, not only partnering with the individual states, but partnering with individual fleets so that they can actually get the true cost. If you're accepting a load in Bridge City, Texas, and you're taking that load all the way to Orlando, what is the true cost of that route? In addition to issuing the permits, getting the permits, and distributing the permits down to the individual drivers for roadside. So that's just a quick overview of ProMiles, over 30 years within fuel tax. And there's multiple different products in there. We're going to be talking about the automated fuel tax product today. I want to do a high level, and I know 99.9% of everyone on this call knows the regulations when it comes to IFTA. I think the important thing from a ProMiles perspective is we manage everything. Anything that changes within the regulations, we change those within our code and make sure when you file your returns, you have the right data. You're going to file your IFTA return quarterly. You're going to log on. You're going to select what vehicles. You're going to run your reports, and you're automatically going to submit them. Nice, quick, easy process. Again, I just wanted to go through the regulations at a high level. You guys will have access to this PowerPoint, so you guys will have access to the details as well. The other thing the system does is there's 5 individual states where you have to file specific mile tax, so we manage all that. We also manage the HUT for the state of New York, so you're going to be able to get those mile taxes as well. And we provide you the data of the percent of miles that you travel within each state, so you can go and you can file your IRPs. The first 2, IFTA, mile tax, right there, you run the reports, and it's automatically just print them off, send them in. For IRP, we provide you the data. And the third bullet point on here is, and I know you guys are very familiar with this, is we take data from the telematics ELD provider. So we take all their GPS data in, we pull it in every night, we look at the odometers, we create your trips. And that's how we have accurate filings for your fuel tax records. Again, I know you guys are very familiar with fuel tax. I'd like to kind of just like set the stage here with a very simple example here. And we all know if you have a Class 8 truck, you're going to be able to have a range of anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 miles, a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the operation. You can average about 6 to 7 miles per gallon. And if you start off in Victoria, Minnesota, and you go all the way to Woodstock, Illinois, within that individual trip, you have to define what that trip is. And you also have to determine, okay, how many miles did I travel? How much fuel did I burn? When did I cross the border? When did I not cross the border? To determine all this information. And what our system is automatically doing on a trip by trip by trip, and we break trips every 24 hours, we're just pulling this data in automatically for you, whether you have 1 vehicle, 5 vehicles, or 9 vehicles, pulling it all in and providing the reports to you at the end of the quarter, or for some of the mile tax reports on a monthly basis. And as you look at, if you're managing it for one, there's a mild headache when it comes to, taking care of IFTA and your mile tax and keeping up with all the different regulations. As you get more and you get 5 vehicles, 9 vehicles, 15 vehicles, 20 vehicles, it gets more difficult to manage that as you move forward. And ProMiles is here to really streamline that entire operation. So when you think about streamlining it, everyone's familiar with the regulations and familiar with what you have to do. Now, the trip details are really important. And that is when we're actually pulling that data in for every one of your vehicles and providing exception reports if we're missing something. So if we have data and we see that there was a fuel location and there was no GPS associated with it, you're going to get an exception report. The other important thing when it comes to fuel tax are the fuel details. And this is the huge advantage we have with TVC ProDriver, because we're automatically going to be able to pull in the specifics of every single one of your fuel purchases. As we get that, we put it inside the trip so you're compliant in the event of an audit. Now, one thing I never knew 23 years ago, as I mentioned to you, the first product I ever launched when I was at PeopleNet, I didn't know anything about regulatory changes for IFTA until I actually started working at ProMiles a little over a year ago. And what happens is throughout the quarter, sometimes there's a change, and that change can be a change in the rate. It can be a couple other things, but as regulations change, we automatically do that for you. And what everyone's really looking for is to get that, what is the tax per gallon of fuel? And what's interesting about the tax and the data that we have is we collect all that data. It's automatically integrated into the fuel tax program. And just to give you an idea of others that use the data, Opus is a good example. They get data from us on the tax rate for each of the individual states and the counties, which they use within the reporting. So that accuracy is built within our system itself. There's also tax holidays. Again, something I never knew, which are certain days throughout the year where you don't have to pay for tax on the fuel that you purchase. We manage all of that. If your driver purchases fuel at this location at this point in time on this day, we know it's a tax holiday. We make sure that you're filing correctly.
So, and then, Glenn, I mean, so it sounds like there's a ton of different things that you got to pay attention to, right? And so, like, I mean, you've been doing this a long time. I mean, and so did I, right? We worked together at Trimble, and we both sold fuel tax. And you know what you're talking about here, I didn't know some of those things. So I would imagine you've worked with a lot of fleets that have come on board, or even individuals that weren't aware of these things. Do you have any examples of, how people did it, or how people might be currently doing it? I mean, how do you find that data? How do you keep up with those regulatory changes? I mean, this sounds like such a huge relief where you partner with, ProMiles. You don't really have to worry about those things because now it's like, hey, you're taking that out of my hands. You handle it. You know the stuff, and it's just one way to eliminate the headache. So I don't know if you have any examples of folks that you've worked with that came on board from a manual process and automated it.
I can use an example when I first got here of a large fleet that reached out to us who wasn't using our system, and they said, hey, well, how are you guys going to manage this regulatory change that happened halfway through the quarter? We explained it to them, and they were like, okay, that's exactly how we should do it. They use another one of our services, so our regulatory experts help them out, and they also use us for state miles and a few other products that we have. But it was just that this was a pretty large fleet, a little over 2,000 units, and they reached out to us to ask us how we were going to manage that split tax rate there. So, and the key is, like, the only way to do this and understand it is to go to all the meetings, to be part of IFTA, part of IRP, all of these different groups that you have to understand how it works and look at the regulations and interpret them and make sure that when you file, you have to have somebody internally that would do that they're filing correctly. And that's what our team does. That's got a whole team. There's 19 people and about 5 true compliance experts when it comes to IFTA and IRP that are on our team that are also here in the event you go through an audit. They're here to help you pre-audit, during an audit, post-audit, to help you.
That's awesome. So full end-to-end support. I partner with you. I don't have to worry about any of these regulatory changes, keeping up with any of that stuff. And in the event I get audited, you guys provide that full audit support as well. Exactly,
100%. So next I want to kind of just give you an idea of setup. So, and I'm going to walk through all the different ELD providers that we partner with, but we're going to work directly with you. Say, okay, which telematics ELD provider are you using, and where are you getting your fuel? And I know you have the TVC ProDriver fuel card, but there may be another card that you're using. Every once in a while, you may purchase it using cash or whatever it may be. So we're going to talk to you about that and make sure we get those integrations set up. Once we get those integrations set up, you have access to the ProMiles system at that point in time, and you're going to go in and just enter some generic information like your company information, all your tax information, which you guys already know. And that information is going to be used and pre-populated on your IFTA and your mile tax reports, which I'll show you a few examples of. So this is one setup. And once it's set up, quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter, when you're filing your IFTA, you just run your reports. Integration. So I talked about trips, and trips are really important when it comes to fuel tax. You can't just have state miles. You got to be able to define what a trip is. All the details over on the left where you get the origin, the destination, route of travel. What you need to know is all we're doing is we're going to all these different ELD providers. Let's use GeoTap, for example. Every single night for your account, we are going to pull for all 10, 15, 20 of your vehicles. We're going to pull that GPS data right back into our system. We're going to pull the odometers right back into our system, and we're going to create trips every 24 hours for you. You can log in, you can view the trips. The majority of customers that sign up and move forward with ProMiles, first couple of weeks, looking at all the data coming in to make sure it's streaming. After the first quarter, second quarter, it's really just a matter of running an exception report to see if anything's outstanding and then filing your returns. I will also want to mention, again, you guys will have access to this deck. Here's a list of all of the current providers that we have. If you guys are using another ELD provider, you can reach out to the TVC Pro Driver team or reach out to me direct and say, Glenn, what about this this ELD provider, this telematics provider? A lot of them have a very easy process for us to get data via API. And again, we just pull it in and create the trips for you. The next part of fuel tax is all the fuel data, which I've touched on a few times. You're going to have all of your fuel data is going to automatically go in. We're also automatically pulling all your electronic toll information in, which you'll set up within the system, which ones you're using. And then from there, we're taking the route from the GPS, we're taking the fuel data, electronic toll payments, and we have everything to file your IFTA return or your mile tax. One other point I want to mention here, actually two other points. From a fuel perspective, the fuel can be on the card. You may have bulk or wet hose fuel. You may have some manual entries. You may have some other way that you're collecting fuel data. The nice part about the ProMiles system is as long as you have that in electronic format, let's use wet hose, for example, as long as you have an Excel format, you can automatically upload that into our system. If for some reason there's an issue with the ELD that you're using for a day or 2 days and you're missing GPS data, you can go right into the system and manually recreate the trip. Starting in Victoria, Minnesota, ending in Chicago, Illinois. And at that point in time, we'll build the trip for you. Automatically gets imported into the fuel tax program to make sure that you have everything you need.
Just a quick question. So when it comes to the trip sheets, right? So, back in the day, people had manual trip sheets and it was a huge headache because you'd have to chase after drivers to figure out the trip sheets. You could do your state mileage calculation. That's a thing of the past, right? Now with ELD mandates, almost all these ELD providers are going to provide that state mileage report, which you guys import in. My question to you is how often are you having to do manual entries? So if I have a fleet of say 10 trucks, is this something I'm gonna have to do often? It's really based upon if the ELD goes down, I'm gonna have to figure out or fill out the manual spreadsheet or import that into your system, correct? Is that 1% of the time, Glenn? How often do you see that occurring?
Here I don't have it's very rare. I don't have an exact percent, but I will say it's very rare. Because at the end of the day, your ELD is basically collecting all the GPS data. We're pulling it in. And there's regulations around ELD for a number of days it can be down before you have to replace it. But it's very rare somebody that has an ELD and it's operational that they have to go in and do anything when it comes to entering any sort of data. We have that there just in case you have to do it. And it's also built into our system because we've had this, for over 30 years now for people that weren't using ELDs back in the day. But with ELDs, it's rare.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to just provide, there's probably over 20 different reports that are available within the system. There's really 5 reports that you guys are going to look at and run. You got your fuel and mile tax summary, which is going to give you the summary of your by state. You got your base IFTA, which I'm going to show you an example of that, which at the end of the quarter, you run it and then you submit it. You got your mile tax for those 5 states that we talked about earlier. And then you can also look at your miles per gallon or kilometers per liter report as well. If for some reason you feel that there's fuel wasn't imported or showing one vehicle, it's got 22 miles per gallon, that's odd, then you would actually go into look at what fuel is associated with that vehicle and look at it. Again, rare, but the data is there. And then you just had a unit trip summary. Those are the 5 top reports that we have. One other note I want to make is, you'll have access to every details of every single one of what these reports are when you start using the ProMiles system. Examples of the reports, here's a good example of your IFTA report, and then also your New York State Department of Transportation, that's your mile tax report. So end of the quarter, run it, all your information's automatically pre-populated, print it, sign it off electronically, send it in. Some states allow electronic, some states don't. That's built into the system that will tell you by state. So it's a nice, quick, easy process just to kind of flow through.
So Glenn, basically, we're going to sync up to the fuel cards for the fuel transactions. We're going to sync up to the ELD provider for the state mileage reporting. You guys marry that data together. So once that integration, all that stuff set up, which sounds like it's a really easy process to do. Once that's set up, like all the end user has to do is go in and spit out those reports and then handle the filing, correct?
That's exactly it. You covered my slide in two slides from now, but that's exactly it. One other thing, compliance expertise. So again, we've been doing this over 30 years, whether it be IFTA, IRP, mile tax. We have a team of experts that's all they do. Audit support, pre, during, post, we can be on site, whatever you need, education, information, whatever you need from our team, we provide that for you. And then data symmetry is 98% of the states use our routing and audit tools. The other interesting thing is that's not on this slide. When you really think about the tax rate per gallon of fuel, we literally have 16 people. That's all they do. They literally just manage the taxes for each of the states and the provinces, and that data is actually integrated into some of our other partners like Opus, so they use our data. End-to-end solution. Exactly what Nick said. It's really, you got your telematics, you have your routes, we're pulling that data in. We know where the tolls are. You're just letting us know which electronic tolls you're using. You have all the truck stops where you're stopping at, and all the fuel purchases at each one of those, which we'll collect directly from the TVC Pro Driver card and or any other card that may be used. Data is transferred all the way to the back office. There's a single sign-on process. So when you're inside the TVC Pro Driver portal, there's a link that's automatically going to sign you in to ProMiles. You don't have to go to different websites or anything along those. It's going to sign you in. You log in, file your IFTA, your mile tax, and then we're here for support for you. High level ROI, every fleet's a little bit different. At the end of the day, when you look at it, there's a cost associated with fuel tax, whether you're doing it internally or using a third party to do it. It can be a lot around how much time you're taking to go collect all the information, the cost of paper, any out of route miles that you have associated with it, any costs that you have for any audits that you're going through. At the end of the day, when you look at fuel tax, I can tell you from my history, whether it be my year, a little over a year here, or my time at People That Are Trimble, this process is proven. Whether you have one vehicle, 25 vehicles, 50 or 5,000, it's just a nice, clean, easy process. And that's the main reason when I was at PeopleNet, this was the product that we sold a lot to our customers that were 35 and under, because at that point in time, super easy to use. One other thing I just want to point out is the market for fuel tech, and you guys know this, it's 2.8 million vehicles out there. We have roughly 340,000 units that we process for. And FedEx Ground's an interesting one because there's a lot of independent service contractors that we work with there. So they may have 5, 10, 20 units. We provide them data. Also, if you're using Penske or Ryder, if you're, leasing vehicles from them, we can pass data directly over to them as well. Those are our 2 largest customers. And then just a couple other examples of PFG and Cardinal Logistics. Real quick, what I wanted to walk you through in the next 2 slides is, so we went through the fuel tax program, but one other thing that's included is our ProMiles Online. So if you guys want to go in and say, you know what, I want to look at a route, Victoria to Woodstock, Illinois, you can put as many in there as you want. It'll route you. And once it routes you, it'll show you any fuel stops along that route. It'll also break down driving directions for you, truck stops, give you a tax summary, give you an itinerary. It's not in-cab navigation, but it does provide the turn-by-turn directions, as you can see it there in the upper left-hand corner. So that's just one other functionality that's included in the fuel tax program that we have with TVC ProDriver, you guys.
And I'm really excited about that, Glenn, because I mean, historically, that's not included as part of the package. So, this is a huge advantage for our TVC customers to be able to have an additional add-on above and beyond what you would normally get just from purchasing a fuel tax solution. So this is an awesome add-on, huge value that's included at no additional cost.
All right. Nick, do you guys have any additional questions? I mean, I wanted to, at any point in time, anybody wants a more detailed kind of overview of fuel tax, I can do that, and or ProMiles Online, but I wanted just to give you guys the overview in the product offering.
Yeah, there's one question that did come in. So it's just, they wanted to understand, like, if that data in ProMiles Online is going to show truck stops that, basically a TVC fuel card saves money at, or all truck stops. So, I mean, this is going to be all truck stops, Glenn. This isn't just because you work with multiple different fuel card providers. It's not just the TVC fuel card. And we know, like, our customers, they don't always use just the TVC fuel card. So, I mean, that's an important note, is that, we can port in other fuel card providers, as part of this solution. But with the ProMiles Online, this shows all truck stops across the country, correct?
It is. It's going to show roughly 9,700 different truck stops across the country. It could be a Pilot, Flying J, every one that we have in our system. It'll show you the retail price. It'll show retail prices within there for diesel. It'll also show DEF price, retail price. And then there's also 3,200 convenience stores, which aren't truck accessible, but they're kind of noted out in there. So a lot of data in there.
Excellent. Well, I mean, we can stay on for a little bit here, Glenn, to see if anybody else has any additional questions. But, while we wait, just to point out, so if you're interested in signing up for fuel tax, Glenn mentioned, if you're part of our, if you have a login to our portal today, the TVC portal, you'll see a link on the side that says fuel tax. When you click on that link today, if you're not a current fuel tax customer, it'll actually take you to a landing page where you can get in touch with the folks at TVC that can talk to you a little bit more about the fuel tax solution. But as Glenn mentioned, that's one thing that we're really excited about, just to make it easy on our customers. When you're logged into the portal, you're an active fuel tax user, you click on the fuel tax button, you don't have to worry about another another login information, any of that stuff. It just automatically logs you in once you're an active fuel tax customer. So, but with that, I do have it posted up here as well. So if you do have questions, if you want to learn more about the fuel tax solution, want to discuss pricing options, I will tell you this is really competitive from a pricing standpoint, because we wanted to pass on the value. The value of being a TVC customer is we help provide discounts, like greater discounts than you can get on your own with other partners like ProMiles. So we'd be happy to talk to you a little bit more about the fuel tax solution and get into some more details with you around pricing. But the number there is 866-749-5359. We'll have folks, waiting to, answer your questions. But doesn't look like anything else came in, Glenn. Really appreciate you jumping on. We're super excited about this partnership. We know it's going to bring a ton of value to our existing customers and our future customers, just from the time savings alone. We all know this can be such a huge headache, and this alleviates so many of those pressure points, and allows our customers to focus in on really running their business, and not have to worry about regulatory stuff and some of the tedious things that are involved with fuel tax.
Yeah, we're excited about this partnership as well. And if Nick, if you or your team or your customers want to have questions and they want to reach out to me directly, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. If we need to get some compliance experts on the phone, we can do that as well. So looking forward to this partnership, work with you and also your customers.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thank you, Glenn, and thank you to the folks that joined us today. We will send this out to all the people that registered, so you'll get a copy of this presentation as well. Thanks all. Have a great day.
Thanks.